Hi all, George here. Today I'm going to show you how to use Cucumber with Spring in a Java test framework. This is not about how to use Cucumber in unit tests for Spring Boot applications, but rather how to use Spring functionality in a standalone testing framework. This way, we can make use of the Spring annotations or the Spring context in our code. I'll try and keep things as simple and as straightforward as possible. I went ahead and I created a new project. I'm calling it Cucumber Spring Test Framework, and I've added all the dependencies here and the versions of the dependencies you can see from on lines 14 to 18. All of them are the most recent versions on the date that this was recorded, except for JUnit. From a Cucumber point of view, we're going to need Cucumber Java, Cucumber Spring, and Cucumber JUnit. For Spring, we're going to need Spring Boot Starter and Spring Test. Assert J, we're going to use it for assertions. We're going to use soft assertions. And we've explicitly added JUnit as a dependency. This is JUnit 4 because we need to add a configuration, a JUnit configuration. Let's go ahead and create our feature files and our scenarios and the implementation of the steps contained within the feature files. We're going to use something simple just to highlight how we can integrate Cucumber with Spring. So within our resources directory, we're going to add another directory called features. And within this, we're going to create our first feature file. So we're going to call it employee.feature. So we're going to simulate a scenario where employees are being added to a list of employees. So we're going to say features and we'll say, HR department. And our scenario will be employees joining. So we're going to say something like given John is hired, then the company has one employee. We need to provide an entry point for Cucumber. So we're going to create a package and we're going to have everything under this Cucumber package. So this will be our parent package for everything else. We're going to have a runners package here. So this will be basically our entry point for Cucumber. So we're going to create the Java class called runner. Yeah, and in this we're going to use the run with annotation from JUnit, and we're going to run it with cucumber.class. And then we can have Cucumber options as well. And the first and foremost, we're going to add the path to our features file. So I'm just going to copy the path of this feature file and then going to delete the file name. Yeah, and we'll also have to glue our steps implementation. I haven't created those yet, but I know that I'm going to create the steps under cucumber.steps. Let's go ahead and create our Cucumber steps. We'll create this as a new package again. So under Cucumber, we will have steps. And then under steps, we're going to create the Java class called Cucumber steps. Then for this runner here, I can add a JUnit configuration. And you can see that runner is automatically populated. So I'm going to select it and click OK. So at this point, it's just going to run everything it finds under these feature files. So if I run it, you'll see we'll have some exceptions. I'll walk you through all the exceptions, so we'll fix it step by step. So it failed because a glue class needs to have the Cucumber context configuration, so it needs to have this annotation. So we're going to add it to our Cucumber steps class, and we need to import it. So now we're getting a different exception, failed to load application context. So this is thrown by Spring, and it fails to load the application context, the Spring context. So for this, we will have to create a class where we specify the actual Spring context and where to look for components and such. So under Cucumber, I'm going to create a new package called config, and in this config package I'm going to create an application config class. So in this class we're going to indicate that this is a Spring configuration class using the configuration annotation. So now if we run our test again, it failed again because we've indicated the configuration, but we need to tell Cucumber how to link to Spring. So in our Cucumber steps we need to point it to the context configuration. So here we're using the context configuration annotation from Spring, and we are telling it that the class that we need to use is application config. So if I run it again, yeah, so now we can see that the Spring context is being loaded, and it fails because we don't have the steps implemented, which we'll do next. So I'm just going to copy the definition from here. I'm going to pin this result here. So I'm copying this definition, and in our Cucumber steps I'm just going to paste it here. So given needs to be imported from Cucumber, and John is hired, so I'm going to rename this method because this is not according to Java standards. So I'm going to say add employee, and I'm going to delete this code here, and instead of John I'm going to say string employee name, ename. So this will not be John anymore, it will be string. So what we're going to do here, as I said, we're going to add it to a list of employees, and that list of employees will come from the Spring context, so it will be a list of strings. So I need to go back to application config, and I'm going to define this list of employees as a list of string called employees. We'll define it as a method, and we're just going to return a new instance of a new array list of strings. And I'm going to import the list class from Java util. So this way we're going to have our list of employees, and I'm going to mark this as a bean, a Java bean, so we can fetch it from the context. So now the beauty of this, integrating Spring in our project, is that in Cucumber steps we can just add our list of strings here, and we're going to call it employees. I'm going to import the list, and then I'm going to use the auto-wired annotation from Spring. So this will mean that it's loaded from the Spring context, and we're looking at the same Java bean. So now in our add employee, and we're just going to say add ename, and we're going to add some output to the console as well. Print line, and we're going to say ename has joined the company. So now, since we changed this to be a parameter, we also have to change in our feature file. So John will become a parameter. If I run it now, we will see that we are passing the first step, and we are missing the validations. So I'm going to copy the implementation, the specification for that method, and I'm going to add it in my Cucumber steps class. I'm going to import then, and I'm going to rename the method to company size validation, and this will be size. So I said that we're going to do the validations using soft assertions in assert.j, so I need to add that as a bean. So I'm going to create it in the application config, soft assertions. I created it here, and I'm marking it as a bean, and then in my Cucumber steps all I have to do is auto wire it, we can say auto wire, and now we are accessing the bin. So soft assertions assert that the actual value, so in this case it's employees dot size is equal to size, the one that we're passing as parameter. And we're gonna do an output as well, and we're gonna say total number of employees is employees.size. And now we're gonna assert everything that we have in soft assertions. The way to do that is through soft assertions.assert all. The point is we want to do all the assertions at the end of the test execution. So after everything has been run, we're gonna define a new method, void test all, and we're just gonna say soft assertions assert all at the end. So we're gonna remove it from here, and we need to tell Cucumber that we need to run this method after all the steps have been completed, and in order to do that we need to use the after annotation in Cucumber. Now when we run, everything is passing and we are asserting correctly. If I go to the feature file and I say Sam is hired, but I keep this assertion as one employee, and if I run it again, the assertion will fail because one is expected, but we actually have two, because we've actually have two new people join. So if I change this to 2 and run it again, then this is passing. So this is it for using Cucumber with Spring, and you can build a very powerful automation test framework. Feel free to comment, share, subscribe, or anything. Thank you.